Onyx Storm. Onyx Storm is not only a continuation of the Iron Flame saga but also places the Kingdom of Navarre on the brink of a vast transformation and a crucial battle for survival. From the very first moments, an atmosphere of despair and unease casts a tangible shadow over the narrative. The threat of the venom is no longer a distant whisper or an ancient legend, it is now a tangible and brutal force, advancing step by step toward Navarre's gates. These demonic beings, with the ability to drain magic from the land and corrupt everything they touch, are not just a physical menace, but an existential nightmare for all beings dependent on magic. At the heart of this turmoil, Violet Sorrengail finds herself in the center of a storm of responsibilities and personal challenges. If in previous books her path was primarily toward becoming a powerful dragon rider, in Onyx Storm the burden of leadership and accountability weighs heavier than ever. One of her most intense internal and external struggles revolves around the fate of Xaden Ryerson. Left in a precarious and uncertain state at the end of Iron Flame, Xaden is now grappling with a curse that is pushing him dangerously close to becoming the very creature he has fought against. This not only puts Violet and Xaden's deep and passionate relationship to the test but forces Violet into an immense moral dilemma. Can she save Xaden? At what cost? And if she can't, must she sacrifice him to keep others safe? The struggle to preserve Xaden's humanity against the venom's corruptive force adds new emotional and psychological depth to the story, placing Violet in a unique position of sacrifice and decisive resolve. Another pillar of the plot is the political tension and the necessity of forging unwanted alliances. Navarre and Poromil, two realms with long histories of hostility, war, and mutual suspicion, are now forced to work together. The venom threat looms so large that the past must be set aside, but doing so proves far harder than it seems. Scenes of negotiations and meetings between the leaders of the two realms are filled with suspense, distrust, and sharp dialogue, illustrating that trust, even in the face of imminent annihilation, is painfully difficult to achieve. In these moments, Violet becomes not just a warrior, but an unwilling diplomat, tasked with balancing expectations, old grudges, and the ultimate goal, survival. This political layer adds depth and complexity to the narrative, reminding us that battles are fought not only on the battlefield but also in the corridors of power. Amid the ongoing battles and political strife, Violet undertakes another critical mission, the search for the legendary seventh breed of dragons. These mysterious, almost mythical creatures appear to be the only hope for utterly defeating the venom. This quest takes Violet on a perilous journey into Navarre's forgotten and unexplored territories. Along the way, she faces not only physical dangers and new creatures but expands her understanding of dragon history and the origins of magic in their world. Each step uncovers new secrets, granting readers a broader view of the myths and legends of this universe. Narrated with suspense and a spirit of discovery, this arc strengthens the adventurous dimension of the novel. While the venom press from without, schemes and betrayals begin to erode Navarre from within. Even among the highest ranks and those presumed to be allies, cracks begin to form. Some characters, driven by ambition, fear, or misguided beliefs, act in ways that risk shattering peace and stability. Violet is forced to make bold, and sometimes unlawful, choices to confront these betrayals. These decisions place her in thorny moral situations, blurring the line between hero and outlaw in the eyes of some. This conspiratorial layer injects the story with tension and uncertainty, reminding us that danger is not always an external enemy. The battles in Onyx Storm are epic and breathtaking in both scale and detail. From sudden, devastating venom assaults on fortified keeps to the majestic airborne clashes between dragon riders, each combat scene is infused with adrenaline and urgency. The author's vivid descriptions place the reader amidst the dust, screams, and fire of war. These battles are not merely grand visual spectacles but stages upon which fearless courage, shattering sacrifice, and the character's resilience in the face of defeat are showcased. Each battle leaves its mark, forcing the characters to confront loss and vulnerability. Ultimately, Onyx Storm is a story of hope in the heart of absolute darkness, of the power of choice when facing the impossible, and of the true meaning of heroism. It explores how people, even when all seems lost, can find the will to stand and fight. Can Violet and her allies weather this gathering storm and save Navarre from complete annihilation? Can love and loyalty overcome ancient curses and bitter betrayals? These questions drive the narrative, keeping readers gripped until the final page and leaving them eagerly awaiting the next chapter in this saga. Onyx Storm is more than just a continuation of a fantasy saga, it is a deep study of how pressure, fear, love, and responsibility impact the psyche of its characters. In this book, the characters don't merely experience events, they change, break, and reform in response to them. By portraying doubts, hidden vulnerabilities, and defense mechanisms, the author turns them into three-dimensional, entirely believable beings. 1. Violet Sorrengail, from survival to leadership, burdened by anxiety and resolve. Violet is no longer the first-year cadet who was forced into the Rider's Quadrant. In Onyx Storm, she is now a battlefield leader and a formidable dragon rider, but this power comes with an even heavier load of responsibility and anxiety. Her growth in this book is more internal and psychological than merely physical or magical. The burden of duty versus individuality, Violet's greatest conflict here lies between her collective duty and her deeply personal concerns. Rescuing Xaden and understanding his situation is not only an emotional challenge but a moral and strategic one. She knows her resources and attention must be focused on the war with the Venons, yet her heart and will pull her towards saving Xaden. This duality makes her tense but deeply relatable. She must wrestle with the inner strain of such difficult choices, sometimes driving her into isolation or overly rigid decisiveness. Violet has always battled anxiety and fear of failure, but in Onyx Storm, this fear takes on new dimensions. Now she is responsible not only for her own life but for her soldiers, the people of Navarre, and the fate of Xaden himself. Her coping mechanisms rely on knowledge, meticulous analysis, sometimes to the point of obsession, and striving for as much control as possible over her environment. When that control slips away, we see moments of vulnerability and despair, giving her character remarkable depth. Gradually, Violet learns that decisiveness doesn't have to mean cruelty. Using her intelligence and strategic abilities, she finds solutions others might overlook. Accepting leadership is never easy for her, she questions herself repeatedly, but ultimately accepts the responsibility and proves her capability. This evolution shapes her from a standard hero into a thoughtful and compassionate leader. Her relationship with General Sorrengail has always been fraught with complexity and tension. In Onyx Storm, it may either peak or change dramatically. Will the general finally offer Violet unconditional support, or will the rift between them deepen? This familial dynamic adds emotional depth and sheds light on the roots of Violet's personality. 2. Xaden Ryerson, wrestling the inner demon and the weight of guilt. Xaden's predicament in Onyx Storm is a private hell, both for Violet and for himself. He is no longer the proud, controlling fighter he once was, but a man confronting an internal, corrupting existential threat. This is Xaden's greatest battle. Once famed for his mastery of power and control, he now faces a force that challenges his very will. His curse or transformation serves as a metaphor for fighting the inner demon and fearing the monster he most despises becoming. He is at risk of losing his humanity, even his memory. This renders him a tragic figure, engaged in constant war with himself. Xaden has always carried the weight of past sins, his own and those of his father, but in Onyx Storm, that burden grows heavier, particularly if his actions under the curse spiral beyond his control. Can he find redemption? Can he prove to Violet that he remains worthy of her love and trust? These questions deepen his psychological complexity and underscore his portrayal as a tortured, layered character. For someone who has always been strong and self-reliant, needing help and accepting vulnerability is a monumental challenge. In Onyx Storm, Xaden is forced to embrace that vulnerability and place his trust in Violet, adding a new layer of intimacy and tension to their relationship. 3. Tarn and Andarna, ancient wisdom and sudden maturity. The dragons in Onyx Storm are more than animal companions, they are characters with intelligence and emotions, acting as mirrors to Violet's and Xaden's growth. Ancient wisdom and unwavering loyalty, Tarn, with his imposing demeanor, is the bedrock of stability and reason for Violet. Beyond being a formidable protector, he is an experienced teacher and advisor. His loyalty to Violet runs so deep that it might even push him toward dangerous decisions. His sardonic yet almost paternal humor with Violet offers moments of levity in the midst of the story's darkest drama, a symbol of commitment and steadiness in a collapsing world. Sudden growth and self-discovery, despite her youth, Andarna undergoes remarkable maturity in Onyx Storm. Discovering her identity as a seventh-breed dragon with unique abilities turns her into a pivotal player in the war against the Venons. Once known as a lovable, mischievous presence, she must now bear the crushing weight of responsibility and wield her powers to save the world. Her rapid evolution makes her one of the book's most compelling and promising figures. 4. Supporting characters, mirrors for the heroes. The supporting cast in Onyx Storm propels the story forward while acting as mirrors to the leads, reflecting aspects of society and the nature of war. A struggle for return and redemption, Farron, once something of an anti-hero or morally gray figure in earlier books, gets a chance at redemption here. Having made questionable moral choices in the past, he now has the opportunity to atone through righteous action and sacrifice. His internal tug-of-war between loyalty to family and allegiance to a greater cause makes him complex and relatable. Can he regain Violet's trust and play a decisive role in the war? This question adds further intrigue to his arc. This group forms the emotional backbone of Violet's support system, a symbol of friendship, camaraderie, and collective resilience. In Onyx Storm, their relationships are tested under pressure, yet their loyalty only deepens. They represent the ordinary soldiers who, despite their fear, display courage and stand firm together. Power and authority versus maternal vulnerability. General Sorengale has always embodied discipline, authority, and at times cruelty. In Onyx Storm, under the pressure of war and the dangers facing her daughter, we may witness moments when the mother in her overtakes the general. These flickers of vulnerability and humanity give her character more depth and complicate her relationships with both Violet and Xaden. Onyx Storm transcends fantasy clichés, becoming a richer and more layered tale. By delving into psychological complexity, internal conflict, and moral growth under extreme crisis, the author delivers not just an enthralling fantasy epic, but also a masterclass in nuanced character study. Every character, main or supporting, wrestles with battles of their own, makes mistakes, and ultimately evolves through their choices and the consequences they face. This depth of characterization forges a powerful bond between the reader and the story. Every great fantasy novel, beyond its tales of magic and adventure, carries deeper concepts within its pages. Onyx Storm is no exception. This book skillfully weaves universal themes and powerful symbols into the fabric of its narrative, giving it unique depth and resonance. These themes help us not only to better understand the story, but also to connect it to our own human experiences. 8. Major themes. 1. The nature of power and corruption. One of the most prominent themes in Onyx Storm is the exploration of the nature of power, whether magical, military, political, or even personal. How can power corrupt an individual? Can the attainment of absolute power, even with good intentions, ultimately lead to ruin? Oxden's situation in the novel is a prime embodiment of this theme. Possessing immense power, he now faces an inner threat pushing him toward destruction. This theme asks, can a person maintain control in the face of a destructive force, even when that force originates from within? Oxden's struggle symbolizes humanity's battle with dark instincts or uncontrollable forces that can pull one away from their true path. On another level, this theme addresses the heavy responsibility that comes with leadership. Violet and other commanders hold the power to make life-or-death decisions. Such power carries inherent potential for corruption. How can one wield power without becoming consumed by it or turning it into a tool for oppression? 2. Sacrifice and selflessness. The heroes of Onyx Storm constantly face moments where they must choose between personal gain and the salvation of others. This theme underscores the importance of sacrificing for greater causes, protecting loved ones and saving a nation. Sacrifice can take many forms, giving up one's life, personal comfort, love, or even part of one's identity. Characters like Violet, Oxden, and even secondary figures each make sacrifices in their own way. The central question is, what is worth sacrificing for, and how far can one go? The theme also examines the consequences of sacrifice. Does every sacrifice, even one made with good intentions, yield the desired outcome? And what price must be paid for it? 3. Choice and consequence. The lives and fates of the characters in Onyx Storm are deeply shaped by the choices they make, with the consequences of these decisions setting off chains of events. This theme delves into the tension between fate and free will. Violet faces morally challenging choices that could change the war's outcome and the lives of her loved ones. Oxden, on the other hand, wrestles with the choice between surrendering to the curse or resisting it. The theme highlights the weight of accountability for one's decisions. It also suggests that past choices, even those made with good intentions, can have unforeseen, and at times disastrous, repercussions in the present and future. 4. The nature of hope and despair in wartime. In the midst of war and ruin, the tension between hope and despair stands out sharply. The characters constantly fluctuate between moments of triumph and discouragement. This theme shows how even in the darkest moments, sparks of hope can be preserved, and how despair can slowly wear down the soul. Many characters embody resilience against despair. Despite losses and defeats, they keep fighting. This theme offers lessons on human perseverance in the face of adversity. In such circumstances, symbols, beliefs, and stories can serve as beacons of hope, inspiring resistance. B. Major symbols. 1. Onyx. The onyx stone, the novel's namesake, is a powerful symbol. Black in color, it is often associated with strength, resilience, and at times, mystery or protection against negative energies. In Onyx Storm, the stone may symbolize hidden power or raw power, which can be both destructive, as with Oxden's situation, and protective. It can also represent steadfastness in hardship, much like the characters resisting the storms of events around them. Its black hue may hint at darkness and looming threats. There may also be a hidden connection between the onyx stone and the dragon's power, or a particular kind of magic, in the novel's world. 2. Dragons. Dragons in the series carry multilayered meaning. They are symbols not only of boundless strength and magic, but also of deep bonds, loyalty, and even ancient wisdom. Each dragon in some way mirrors the personality of its rider. Tern and Andarna, for example, reflect Violet's strength and growth. Dragons can symbolize freedom, flight and power, but also danger, wild dragons or Oxden's state. This duality gives them richer symbolic weight. 3. Storm. That storm in the title Onyx Storm clearly represents the challenges, crises, and great war in which the characters are caught. Storms are often linked to destruction, chaos, and unrest. The storm can be both external, actual battles and warfare, and internal, psychological and emotional struggles, such as Oxden's inner turmoil. This overlap amplifies its symbolic potency. 4. Walls and borders. Physical walls and geographical borders in the story's world symbolize separation, protection, and at times, confinement and limitation. This symbol can also extend to moral boundaries. In war, the line between good and evil can blur, forcing characters to act in moral gray zones. Oxden's condition is also symbolic of blurred identity lines, the boundaries between human and monster, friend and foe. The themes and symbols in Onyx Storm give the story depth and richness, turning it from mere fantasy adventure into an exploration of human nature, power, choice, and hope. Through these tools, the author not only makes the narrative more compelling, but also offers the reader an opportunity to engage with deeper philosophical and psychological ideas. These layers of meaning ensure the book resonates long after the final page is read. At first glance, Onyx Storm may seem like a story far removed from reality, a world filled with fire-breathing dragons, powerful magic, and epic battles. Yet the true art of a great fantasy novel lies in its ability to go beyond the borders of imagination and address the issues and challenges of real human life, offering today's readers a mirror that reflects tangible realities. Through its exploration of universal themes and human conditions, Onyx Storm astonishingly resonates with our modern world. In today's world, we witness struggles for power every day, from international politics to major economic organizations. Onyx Storm serves as a wake-up call by showing how power can corrupt individuals. Do our leaders abuse their power? Could the curse of Oxden be a metaphor for the hidden temptations every powerful figure faces? This novel helps us examine leaders and politicians with a more critical eye and ask ourselves, what is true power, and how should it be used responsibly? Violet and Oxden's fight against corrupt and dark forces can be seen as a symbol of our own battles against corruption, from economic wrongdoing to moral decay. In an era when wars and global conflicts, climate change, and humanitarian crises make daily headlines, Onyx Storm paints a vivid picture of the pressures and tough choices people face in times of crisis. The characters must make decisions with life-or-death consequences. Do we, too, face choices in our daily lives that shape the future of ourselves and our society? The novel shows how, in times of war and chaos, moral boundaries can blur, and how people, under extreme conditions, are sometimes forced into compromises unimaginable in normal life. This raises crucial questions about ethics and personal responsibility in times of crisis. The theme of sacrifice is not limited to battlefields. In everyday life, we witness countless acts of selflessness, from healthcare workers during the pandemic, to parents who sacrifice for their children, to activists who fight for their causes. Onyx Storm dramatizes this concept, reminding us what in life is truly worth fighting and sacrificing for. The characters' sacrifices to protect each other and their community highlight the importance of solidarity and empathy when facing great challenges. In a world overflowing with information and endless choices, the novel reminds us that every decision, no matter how small, can have significant and sometimes unpredictable consequences. This message grows ever more relevant in the age of social media, where individual actions ripple across society. By emphasizing the concept of choice and consequence, Onyx Storm nudges readers toward taking responsibility for their own decisions. Despite her physical weaknesses, Violet becomes a symbol of resilience and willpower. This can inspire anyone facing challenges or limitations in life, reminding us that true strength comes from within, not from physical ability. Oxden's struggle with his curse or inner darkness can be seen as a metaphor for every person's battle with the hidden or unwanted parts of themselves. This theme shows how to confront and manage one's inner weaknesses and threats, something deeply relevant to mental health and self-awareness. In today's world, where many people face existential crises and a search for meaning, novels like Onyx Storm, with their epic battles between good and evil and characters bound to purposes greater than themselves, can help readers find their place in the larger world and search for meaning and purpose in their own lives. The novel implicitly underscores the value of loyalty, courage, and love in an unstable world. In an age of stress and constant pressure, fantasies like Onyx Storm can be a refuge for the mind. But this escape is more than mere entertainment. It offers a chance to safely reflect on life's complex issues and discover possible solutions. These stories nurture our imagination and give us space to think of creative and innovative solutions to real-life problems. At its core, Onyx Storm, despite all its fantastical elements, is a deeply human story that addresses timeless challenges and themes. It allows us, through the lens of imagination, to examine the realities of our own time, from the complexities of power and leadership to the significance of choice and sacrifice, and the struggle against darkness both within and without. In this way, Onyx Storm is not only a thrilling form of entertainment but also a thought-provoking mirror that can help us better understand ourselves and the world around us.